The day I met Stephanie, everything seemed ordinary. Just another day of high school, filled with the typical noise of teens scrambling to their next class. But there she was, dropping her books right in front of my locker. As I helped her gather her scattered notes, our hands touched, and I felt something. A spark that didn't fade as quickly as our awkward smiles. "I'm such a klutz," she laughed, her eyes twinkling as she brushed a strand of hair from her face. "It's okay. Happens to the best of us," I replied, handing her the last of her textbooks. "I'm Cody, by the way." From that day, Stephanie and I were inseparable. Our friendship quickly blossomed into something deeper. We found in each other a refuge from the chaos of teenage life. Our dates consisted of long walks by the river, sharing a single pair of earbuds as we listened to our favorite bands and dreaming of the future. "Promise me something," Stephanie said one evening, as we sat watching the sunset, her head resting on my shoulder. "Anything," I replied, wrapped in the simplicity and earnestness of young love. "Promise we'll always be honest with each other, no matter how hard it might be," she said seriously, meeting my eyes with an intensity that took me by surprise. "I promise," I said, and I meant it. We married young, right after graduation. Some said we were too young, that we should explore life more before settling down. But for us, it felt right. Our wedding was modest but beautiful, set in her parents' backyard under strings of fairy lights that twinkled like stars. As I watched her walk down the makeshift aisle, my heart was pounding, not with fear, but with overwhelming love. When she reached me, she whispered, "Ready to start our forever?" "Absolutely," I whispered back as we turned to face the future together. Our early years were filled with laughter and challenges. We learned to balance budgets tighter than we had hoped and celebrated small victories with cheap champagne and homemade dinners. Soon, our family began to grow. First came Michael, then Jenna, each adding new layers of joy and complication to our lives. But no matter the struggles, our love was a constant, a promise kept with every challenge we faced. That was until life started to feel less like a series of adventures and more like a routine to be endured. Our conversations shortened, our dates became sporadic, and the distance between us grew. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would test every vow we made under those twinkling lights. Years slipped by almost imperceptibly, each day blending into the next with the monotonous rhythm of routine. The early excitement of our marriage had settled into a comfortable pattern that over time felt more like a well-worn groove. Our days were defined by the demands of raising Michael and Jenna, work, and the endless cycle of household chores. One evening, as we sat across from each other at the dinner table, Stephanie flipping through a stack of bills and I trying to feed a fussy Jenna, our conversation stumbled into the mundane. "Did you remember to call the plumber about the leaky faucet?" Stephanie asked, not looking up from the pile of envelopes. "I did, he's coming tomorrow," I replied, wiping spilled baby food from the table. The room was filled with the sounds of Michael's video game from the living room and Jenna's discontented whimpers. We ate mostly in silence, the air heavy with all the things left unsaid. After dinner, as I washed the dishes and Stephanie put Jenna to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of growing apart, like two ships silently drifting in the night. Later that night, in the quiet of our bedroom, I decided to breach the widening gap. "Steph, do you think we could go out this weekend? Just you and me?" I asked tentatively, hoping to reignite some spark, some reminder of who we were beyond just parents and partners in domesticity. She paused, a frown creasing her forehead as she looked up from folding laundry. "A sitter for the whole night would cost a fortune, Cody. We really should be saving for the new tires on the car. Maybe some other time," she said, her voice tired and distracted. I nodded, feeling a sting of rejection, though I knew practicality dictated her response. "Yeah, you're right. Just thought it might be nice," I murmured, turning away to hide my disappointment. Weeks turned into months, and our interactions became a series of logistical exchanges. The spontaneity and passion that once defined us were now rare guests in our conversations, replaced by a focus on efficiency and routine. One chilly autumn morning, as we prepared for the day, I watched Stephanie in the mirror as she brushed her hair. "Remember when we used to talk until 3 a.m. about everything and nothing?" I said, a nostalgic smile tugging at my lips. She met my gaze in the mirror, a slight smile playing on her lips too. "I do. Life was less complicated then, wasn't it?" Her tone was wistful, but then she sighed, setting down her hairbrush. "But we have responsibilities now, Cody. Kids, a mortgage. We can't just live on love and conversation." I knew she was right, but it didn't ease the ache for something lost, something we couldn't seem to find the time or energy to retrieve amidst the relentless demands of everyday life. Our marriage was still a partnership, but one that had subtly shifted, grounded in responsibility rather than romance. It was on one of these routine days that the seeds of resentment began to take root, though neither of us recognized them for what they were at the time. The night that changed everything began like so many others before it, steeped in the mundane. Stephanie announced she was going out with her co-workers after a particularly grueling day at the office. It was a rare occurrence, her desire to unwind with friends, and I saw the fatigue etched across her face, welcomed the idea. "Think you can manage bedtime with the kids?" she asked, a half-apologetic smile on her face as she adjusted her earrings in front of our bedroom mirror. "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile. "You deserve a night out. Have fun, okay?" "Thanks, Cody. I won't be late," she said, blowing me a kiss as she grabbed her purse and headed out the door. The kids and I spent a cozy evening at home. Michael was captivated by his new book, and Jenna, tired from the day's play, fell asleep early without much fuss. I settled down with a book myself, enjoying the quiet. It wasn't until the clock neared midnight that I realized how late it had gotten without any word from Stephanie. When she finally came through the door, something about her demeanor was off. Her smile was too tight, her eyes avoiding mine. My stomach tightened with a vague, unsettling premonition. "Everything okay?" I asked as I met her in the kitchen, where she was quietly setting down her keys. "Yeah, just tired. It was a long night," she murmured, avoiding my gaze. Her voice was strained, her usual brightness dimmed. Sensing there was more beneath her terse words, I pressed on. "Steph, if there's something you need to tell me, please just say it." She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "It's not easy, Cody. There was a guy." Her voice broke slightly, and she finally met my eyes, her own filled with a mix of regret and fear. "A guy?" I repeated, my voice hollow, feeling the ground shift beneath me. She nodded slowly, tears brimming. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Cody. We were just talking, and one thing led to another, and..." Her voice trailed off into a whisper. "And what, Stephanie?" I urged, feeling a surge of anger and pain. "He kissed me, and I didn't stop him. I'm so sorry, Cody." The words tumbled out in a rush, and she began to sob, her body racked with guilt and confusion. The air seemed to thicken around me, heavy with her confession. A part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but another part recoiled, wounded and betrayed. "Why, Steph? Why him? Why now?" The questions burst from me, each one laden with hurt. "I don't know, Cody. I'm just so lost. I feel like we're drifting apart, and it was stupid. I don't even care about him. It was a mistake." Her voice was desperate, pleading for me to understand. The conversation stretched into the early hours of the morning, each word uncovering layers of unspoken frustrations and neglected emotions. We were two people, once inseparable, now strangers under our own roof. That night marked the unraveling of our marriage, the beginning of a long and painful journey through doubt, anger, and the search for forgiveness. Whether we could find our way back to each other, or if the chasm between us had grown too wide, remained a question neither of us was ready to answer. The morning light that followed the night of Stephanie's confession was harsh, unforgiving, We both had barely slept, each tangled in our own turmoil and regrets. The breakfast table was a silent battlefield, the children oblivious to the tension as they chattered about school and friends. As I dropped Michael and Jenna off at school, the normalcy of their routines stung. Back at home, Stephanie was waiting, her face pale, her usual vibrancy gone as if it had fled with her confession. "We need to talk about what this means for us," she said, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly as she poured herself a cup of coffee. I nodded, sitting down across from her. The kitchen, once a place of family gatherings and laughter, felt cold, sterile. "I don't even know where to start, Steph. I feel like I don't know you." "I know," she replied softly, her eyes downcast. "I feel like I've been losing myself, Cody. And last night, it wasn't just about the kiss. It's about us, how we've been. I'm so sorry." The words were supposed to offer some solace, perhaps a path to mend things, but they felt like salt in an open wound. "Is there more you haven't told me?" I asked, the suspicion painful but necessary. "No, Cody, there's nothing more. It was just that one moment, and I regret it deeply," she answered, her voice breaking with the strain of her emotions. We decided to seek couples counseling, a mutual attempt to salvage whatever was left of our marriage. It was during these sessions that the full impact of our disconnection unfolded. Each session was like peeling back layers, revealing more about our desires, our fears, and our failures. In one particular session, the counselor asked, "What do you both want from this marriage?" "Cody, can you forgive Stephanie? And Stephanie, can you commit to rebuilding trust?" "I want to forgive her," I confessed, my voice heavy. "But every time I look at her, all I see is betrayal. It's like a wall between us." "I will do everything I can to rebuild our trust," Stephanie interjected, turning to me with earnest, tear-filled eyes. "I made a mistake, a terrible one. But I love you, Cody. I love our family. I don't want to lose you." As we navigated the turbulent waters of therapy, legal concerns also loomed. I consulted with a lawyer, not out of a desire to end things immediately, but to understand my options. The lawyer, a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor, laid out the potential paths forward. "If you decide to go through with a divorce, it will involve decisions about custody, division of assets, and possibly alimony," he explained. "Given the circumstances, the court will consider many factors, including the welfare of your children." Stephanie and I had several fraught discussions about the practicalities of a split. "If we do this, if we really do this," she said one evening, her voice a mixture of resignation and fear, "I want you to know I'll be fair. I don't want to fight over every spoon and chair. I just want what's best for Michael and Jenna." "Me too," I responded, the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. "No matter what happens, they're our first priority." As the weeks turned into months, the initial shock of Stephanie's betrayal morphed into a deeper, more profound sadness. We were two people who had loved each other deeply, now grappling with the possibility that love might not be enough to heal the wounds of betrayal. The journey was far from over, and the outcome uncertain, but we were committed to walking through it, for our sake and for our children's. In the wake of our marital discord, life demanded to move forward, and so, begrudgingly, did I. The routines of daily life became both a curse and a savior. They kept me grounded, but also served as constant reminders of the void Stephanie's absence had begun to carve. I found myself often standing in the doorway of Jenna and Michael's rooms after they slept, watching their peaceful faces, wondering how much of our strife they sensed. It was during one of these evenings that Michael confronted me, his young face marred by a frown that seemed too heavy for his years. "Dad, is Mom going to move out?" he asked, his voice small in the dim light of his bedroom. I sat beside him, my heart aching with the weight of uncertainty. "We're trying to figure things out, buddy," I answered honestly. "Things might be a bit different, but we both love you and Jenna so much. That will never change." He nodded, looking down at his hands. "I just want us all to be happy," he whispered. Me too, son. Me too, I replied, pulling him into a hug, the simplicity of his wish echoing loudly in my heart. During the days, I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction. Yet each project was tinged with a loneliness that seemed to seep into the edges of my concentration. In the evenings, the house felt emptier. Stephanie's presence, though contentious of late, was missed, her laughter and warmth now ghosts in the hallways of our home. One Saturday, I met with an old friend, Mark, hoping to find some solace in shared company. We sat at a local cafe, a steaming mug of coffee in my hands, the warmth a stark contrast to the chill in my bones. "How are you holding up?" Mark asked, his concern evident as he leaned forward. I sighed, staring into the swirls of steam rising from my cup. "It's tough. Every day brings a new challenge. I miss her, even now, but I also feel so betrayed. It's like living with a constant ache," I confessed, the words tasting bitter. "Time, Cody. It takes time," he replied, patting my shoulder. "You're doing the best you can, and remember, it's okay to not be okay." His words, meant to comfort, were a reminder of the journey ahead, one I had to face largely on my own. At night, the silence of the house was the hardest to bear. The void left by Stephanie's absence was overwhelming. During one particularly sleepless night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, each memory a sharp jab. It was then that Stephanie's number, still at the top of my recent calls, caught my eye. Before I knew it, I had dialed her number. "Cody? Is everything okay?" Stephanie's voice, filled with concern, came through the speaker. "Yeah, the kids are fine," I hurried to reassure her. It's hard, Steph. Harder than I thought." There was a pause, heavy with unsaid words, before she replied, "I know. It's the same for me. I'm sorry. For everything." "We're just doing our best, aren't we?" I asked, the fight gone from my voice. "Yes, we are," she agreed softly. We ended the call with a promise to keep the lines of communication open, especially for Michael and Jenna's sake. As I set the phone down, I realized that coping alone wasn't just about dealing with the absence of Stephanie, but also confronting the loneliness within myself, finding strength in the solitude, and learning to rebuild piece by piece. Several months after Stephanie and I began our separation, the raw edges of pain started to heal, replaced by a cautious acceptance. Life had to go on, and with that, I began to explore my newfound independence, rediscovering hobbies and interests that had been sidelined during our marriage. One crisp Saturday, I decided to attend a local photography workshop, a passion of mine that had languished in the busyness of family life. It was there that I met Eliza, a fellow photography enthusiast whose vibrant spirit was infectious. We struck up a conversation over our shared love for landscape shots and vintage cameras. "I've always thought that photography captures the things we might otherwise forget," Eliza said thoughtfully, adjusting her lens as we stood overlooking a scenic vista. "That's exactly it," I replied, snapping a photo of the horizon where the sun met the earth. "It's capturing a moment, holding on to it." Our friendship grew over shared coffees after workshops and exchanged tips on photography. It was during one of these meetings, sitting across from her at our favorite cafe, that I broached the topic of my separation. "So, I'm navigating some pretty tough waters," I admitted, tracing the rim of my coffee cup. "My marriage, it didn't work out, and it's been tough, really tough." Eliza listened intently, her eyes kind. "I'm sorry to hear that, Cody. Breakups are never easy, but it sounds like you're finding your way through it." "Trying to," I sighed. "Some days are better than others." As winter melted into spring, Eliza and I found more reasons to spend time together. Our friendship deepened, and I began to feel a warmth, a spark, I hadn't expected to find again so soon. But with the budding feelings came a torrent of doubts and fears about starting a new relationship. One evening, as we walked through the local botanical gardens, I decided to voice my uncertainties. "Eliza, I really enjoy spending time with you, more than I thought possible, I started, pausing by a bed of blooming tulips. But I'm worried about moving too fast, about whether I'm ready. Eliza turned to me, her expression understanding. Cody, there's no rush. We can take this as slowly as you need. I like you, a lot, but I don't want to be another source of stress in your life. Her words were a balm, soothing the skittish corners of my heart. Thank you, Eliza. That means everything to me right now. Our relationship gradually evolved, with each outing, each shared laugh, bringing us closer. And as my divorce finalized, marking the end of one chapter and the start of another, I found myself less daunted by the prospect of beginning anew. One late afternoon, while Michael and Jenna were visiting their mother, I sat down with them to talk about Eliza. Kids, there's someone I want you to meet soon. Her name's Eliza, and she's become very important to me, I explained gently. Michael looked up, curious. Does she like video games? He asked. Jenna, a bit more perceptive to my emotions, asked, Do you like her, Dad? I do, very much, I smiled, reassured by their openness. We can't wait to meet her, Jenna smiled back, and even Michael nodded, seeming to accept the news as another part of the changes that had become our new normal. Starting anew wasn't just about moving past old pain, it was about embracing the possibilities that came with new connections, and learning to love and live fully once again. As the seasons changed, so did the nature of my conversations with Stephanie. We had transitioned from terse exchanges about logistics and schedules to more reflective dialogues about where things went wrong in our marriage. It was during one such conversation, late one autumn evening while the kids were with her, that Stephanie broached a subject we'd danced around for months. Cody, do you ever think about what if? She asked quietly over the phone, her voice tinged with a melancholy that echoed my own feelings. I paused, considering her question. Yeah, I do. Especially late at night, when everything's too quiet, I admitted. What if we had communicated better? What if we had not taken each other for granted? I think about that a lot, Stephanie confessed. I regret so many things, Cody. Not just that night. I regret not being there for you more. For letting our connection slip away so gradually we hardly noticed until it was too late. Her admission struck a chord, and I found myself grappling with a mix of forgiveness and lingering sorrow. I have my regrets too, I said, the weight of our shared past pressing down. I wish I had reached out more, asked you how you were really feeling. We talked more openly than we had in years, delving into the pain and disappointment that had characterized the final years of our marriage. It wasn't an attempt to revive what was lost, but to understand, and perhaps to heal. A few days later, I met Stephanie at a small cafe where we used to go when we were dating. We sat across from each other, a small table between us laden with 2 steaming cups of coffee. It felt strangely familiar yet irrevocably changed. I've been doing some thinking, Stephanie started, her hands wrapped around her coffee mug for warmth. Seeing you move on with Eliza, it's made me realize that I need to let go, not just for you, but for me too. It's not been easy, Steph, I said, my voice low. But meeting Eliza helped me understand something important. We can't live our lives in the shadow of our past mistakes. We have to find a way to move forward. Stephanie nodded, her eyes moist. I'm happy for you, truly. And I want you to know, I'm trying to find my own path too, for the kids and for myself. We discussed our hopes for the future, her desire to explore her interests further, and my new relationship with Eliza. We talked about our children, how we both wanted to ensure they felt loved and supported through the ongoing changes. As we stood to leave, Stephanie reached out to hug me, something she hadn't done in a long time. Thank you, Cody, for this talk. It means more than you know. Thank you, Steph, for being honest with me. With us, I replied, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't expected. Walking away from the cafe, I felt a lightness, a sense that although our paths had diverged, we were both finding our way to happiness again. Reflecting on our journey with all its highs and lows taught me that forgiveness is not just an act of kindness to another, but a gift to oneself. It was time to fully embrace the new chapter of my life with Eliza and my children, while wishing Stephanie well on her own journey. The sense of coming full circle truly hit me during the spring, at Jenna's elementary school graduation. Stephanie and I sat together in the small auditorium, a testament to the progress we had made in healing and co-parenting. The room buzzed with the excited chatter of proud parents and gleeful children, but there was a calmness between us, a shared pride in our daughter's achievement. "Look at her, Cody," Stephanie whispered, her voice thick with emotion as Jenna walked across the stage to receive her certificate. "She's so confident. I can't believe she's heading to middle school already." "I know," I replied, my heart swelling. "Feels like just yesterday she was clinging to my leg on her first day of kindergarten." We shared a smile, the kind that acknowledged our joint journey through the years of Jenna's young life. It was these moments that reassured me of the healing that had taken place, not just in our relationship, but within our family. After the ceremony, as Jenna ran over to us with her certificate in hand, her face lit up with a beaming smile. "Did you see me, Dad?" "Mom?" she asked, bouncing with excitement. "We saw you, sweetheart. We're both so proud of you," I said, giving her a hug, which Stephanie joined, enveloping Jenna in a moment of familial warmth. Later, as we enjoyed celebratory ice cream, I reflected on the other significant event that marked this chapter of my life, my engagement to Eliza. The decision to propose had come naturally. She had brought a light into my life that I hadn't realized was missing. I wanted to share this news with Stephanie in person, considering the respect and understanding that had grown between us. "Stephanie, I have some news. Eliza and I are engaged," I said later that day, as we sat on a park bench while Jenna played nearby. Stephanie looked at me, a mix of surprise and something softer in her eyes. "Cody, that's wonderful news. I'm really happy for you both," she responded, her sincerity clear. "Thank you, Steph. It means a lot hearing that from you," I said, feeling a profound relief at her response. "It's good to see you happy, Cody. And Eliza is wonderful. She'll be good for you. And for Jenna and Michael," she added, nodding towards where Jenna was playing. As spring gave way to summer, the wedding plans took shape. Eliza and I wanted a simple ceremony, one that celebrated our love and blended our families. The children, both Michael and Jenna, were excited, fully supportive of the new step in our lives. The day of the wedding was filled with laughter and light. As Eliza walked towards me, radiant and smiling, I felt the chapters of my past, the pain and the joy, merge into a story of redemption and new beginnings. At the reception, Michael, now more a young man than a boy, leaned over and said, "Dad, I haven't seen you this happy in a long time. Eliza's awesome." "I'm glad you think so, buddy. It means everything to me that you and your sister are on board," I replied, clapping him on the shoulder. As the day turned into evening, I took a moment to step aside, watching the guests, my family, friends, and Eliza mingling and laughing. Stephanie was there, chatting with Eliza, both laughing at something Jenna was animatedly telling them. It was a scene I could never have envisioned during the darkest days of my past. Turning my gaze to the setting sun, I felt a deep sense of peace. Love had once again found its place in my life, not just with Eliza, but in the form of a family knit back together in a new, unexpected way. Life, I realized, could be beautiful and whole again, even after being broken. This was what coming full circle really meant. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If today's story resonated with you, or if you've experienced similar challenges in your relationships, remember you're not alone. We hope this video offers some insight or comfort as you navigate your own path forward. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We value your perspectives and would love to hear your stories too. Join us next time for another profound exploration of the heart's resilience. Until then, take care and keep seeking your truth.